In this video, we are going to see how to use the filter function in Excel and why should you use the filter function in Excel over the filter tool. And we also going to see how can we use normally a filter function with only one single criteria, or how can we use the filter function with multiple criteria. And how can we append a different function to the filter, let's say a sort function, to properly sort the data set, as we can notice right here. January, February, March, everything perfectly sorted. However, if we go to the original data set, it's not that properly sorted. June, July, April, March, and so forth. So I really hope this video about the filter function can really help you out on your daily basis to save time, to automate tasks, and to work smarter instead of harder. So let's find out how can we use the filter function in Excel. The first big question, why should I use the filter function over the filter tool? Because the filter function can be more intuitive and it's also dynamic. So let me show you here an example. I have a data set to the left with a bunch of different rows, bunch of different columns with information such as the date, the month, item, quantity, total, region, and also the customer name. So let's say I want to filter this data set to make some analysis. Let's say I don't want to see everything or all the rows that I have, but just the information about the March month. So what I can do is I can click in this data set and go to the data tab and then click into the filter tool, because that way I can enable the filters. Let me click here in the months or in the date, and I don't want to see everything, but just March, and then OK. In this case, I can clearly see and notice that the data set was filtered for me. Much easier, okay? However, it's not dynamic. So let's say now I want to change. I don't want to see March anymore. I want to see another date or a different period, a different range. How I can do it? I need to go again to the filters and then select what I need to filter the data and so forth. And another problem with the filters, or with another benefit to use the filter function, is if we have more than just one criteria, let's say I want to filter by the date, so January, February, and March, okay? And I only want to see the items A and C, and then okay. It's much easier to apply multiple criteria when we are using the filter function. So let me show you here. Let me undo the filter, okay? Now to the right, I can start with the equal sign and then using the filter function. Let me double click in the filter function. 1, 2. And the first argument that we have is the array. Basically, the array is the data set that you want to use, is the data. And you can either click, hold, and drag to select the specific range, or if you prefer, you can click over the first column, drag to the right to select literally all the columns that you have. I think it's a better idea to select everything, because if you later on, let's say, add new rows right here, new data, all those new data is going to be automatically updated within the filter function. But anyway, comma, I want to include everything that is equal to the region. So let me select the column F, but it needs to be equal to this filter that I have, or this name. And then I can hit enter. 1, 2, 3. Okay, my data is filtered for me, and we can see that the region is equal to West, because the value that I set right here is West. But I can also change and set another value. Let me type in here, let's say South, and I'm gonna hit enter. The new data is going to be automatically updated for me. It's much faster and easier and intuitive than use the filters in Excel. Once you set the filters, you're done, you know? You just need to change here the name, the criteria, and all the data is going to be filtered for you. Now let me show you a very important example. Let's say you have some new data to append, to include to the old one. What you can do is you can select everything. So as we can see, this new data right here is starting in August, but the original one starts in January. So let's say it's the continuation of the data. But let me select here everything until the ending, okay? And then I need to copy, Ctrl+C. And then I can go back to the original data, and let's click here and Ctrl+V. Okay, copy and paste. Now if I go back here to the filters, everything is already done. So the new data that I included, as we can notice, August, September, November, December, and etc. is already here. So it's very noticeable that using the filter functions over the filter tool has many benefits. And let's say Now let's go back and undo the action of copy and paste the data. Let me undo. Okay, let's see if okay, yeah. So I don't have any more the new data. But let's say I want to apply the filters in this data just to compare the filters tools with the filter function. Let me click here and then filter. Okay. Let's say I want to use the region as a criteria and I want to filter everything that is equal to salt. Click here, uncheck everything but the salt, and then OK. Yeah, we can notice the data is filtered for me. And if I include here and go to the new data, everything is already selected. So I'm gonna press Ctrl+C to copy, go back to the original data. And in the last row or in the first blank row, I want to press Ctrl+V to paste. Okay, did you remember that I just filtered here the region by the salt? Okay, but if we go down in the new data, we're gonna need to filter it again because I have west, north, west, and so forth. So one more benefit to use the filter function over the filter tool, because we don't need to filter all over again every time a new data is included in the data set. The filter function is going to do it automatically. Let me clear here this filter. And yeah, now let's move on to a different example where we can use multiple criteria. And to use multiple criteria, it's very simple. The first thing that you need to do is normally use the equal sign, filter function, double click, 1, 2, and select the array that you want to use. Everything, it's easier than select a specific range, right? And then trauma. Now is where it's going to change. Include, what I want to include. Previous, we just did learn that I need to select the column and then equal to the criteria. However, here it's very important because we are going to use many different criteria to input to open parentheses, okay? To separate the include arguments in between parentheses. So open parentheses and then select the first range. We can start with, let's say, the region again. So column F. And then if the region is equal to the region that I have here, close parentheses, I want to show the data. But I want to include one more thing right here. So another criteria can be asterisk, asterisk, open parentheses again. I want to use now, let's say, the column C, where I have the item, to couple the item with the region. And if the item is equal to the item that I have here, so the data is going to be filtered. And one more criteria. Or before we use one more criteria, let's hit enter and see what's going to happen here. 1, 2, 3, enter. Okay, I missed one parenthesis, but anyway, let's click yes. And that's it. We can see that both of those criteria that we used are appearing here in the data, item A and west. So this is our result. Now, instead of using the asterisk, because the asterisk means and, or, both of criteria needs to be true at the same time, as we can notice. So where I have the item A, it's also because I have the west as the region. And if I change, let's say, instead of using west, I want to use south. Instead of using item A, I want to use item C. Okay, where I have item C, where I have the first criteria, I'm also going to have the second criteria because both needs to appear in the same row. Both needs to be true at the same time. However, if you don't want to use a and or both be true at the same time, you can use a or. And to use a or, you just need to change the asterisk to a plus sign. Or the first criteria needs to be true, or the second one, doesn't matter. So let me hit enter. Now we're gonna have a much larger result because both of the criteria don't need to be in the same row, as we can notice right here. The second criteria is item C. However, the first, the second, the third, the fourth row, the items are different than the item C. However, if we go to the region, that is one of my criteria, it's okay, south. So if we use the plus sign, it's because I want to have one of the criteria. Don't need to be all the criteria at the same time in the same row, but at least one of those criteria needs to appear in the list. Okay, so this is how we can use and or. But now let's include here a third criteria, or let me do something different. I want to use, again, let me bring at the bottom right corner, click, hold, and drag down. I want to bring also the region down because that way I can have two criteria that is in the same column. So let's say I want to filter south and also everything that is equal to west. So let's get rid of this filter function and let's do it again. Equal sign, filter function, double click 1, 2. The array that I want to use is going to be again the data set, everything, comma. I want to include open parentheses. Remember, if you want to use multiple criteria, you need to separate those criteria with a parenthesis. So open parentheses, I want to start with the region, and the region needs to be equal to the first region that I have, close parentheses. Or plus sign, if you want to use and, is the asterisk, but I want to use a plus sign, or open parentheses, the region needs to be equal to the second region, close parentheses. And one more criteria that I can have is plus sign or open parentheses, the month needs to be equal to my third criteria, September, close parentheses again, and then I can hit enter. 1, 2, 3, enter. Okay, here is the data. So as we can notice, I have west and south, or two different criteria in the same column, and I also have the September. Let's see here if we got September. No, there's no September here in the data set in the result. However, let me change the month and see what's going to happen. February, okay, now we have February, and in the same row as a different criteria appears, such as east. And the last but not least important thing is, how can we sort the data set? Because if you pay attention right here, the months are not properly organized or properly sorted from A to Z, or from the oldest one to the newest one. Let's say January is right here, and then I have above January, July, and then March. I need to sort this data. And to do it is very simple. I can couple with the filter function, the equal sign, the sort function. Basically, you need to append the sort to the filter. So let's go here to the first cell, 1, 2, to open. And immediately after the equal sign or before the filter function, I can append the sort function. Double click 1, 2 to select. As the array, the first argument, we're gonna use the filter function itself, because the filter function, the result, is going to retrieve our array. And then, comma, I want to sort based on which column? The date, the month, the item. I want to use the date. So the date is the first column that we have in this array. So 1, and then comma. I want to use a ascending order or descending. I want to use ascending. So let me double click 1, 2, and then close parentheses. If I hit enter, you're going to be able to see that the data set is going to be automatically sorted. 1, 2, 3, enter. Okay, now we have everything set perfectly. January, February, March. February is one of my criteria, and south and west is another one, and so forth. So this is how we can use the filter function in Excel over the filter tool. I hope this video can help you a lot, and if you have any questions or any suggestions to the next videos, let me know, comment down below, because every day has a new video.